There are moments in my childhood that I look back on and say that this moment defined me. Breaking my arm, learning I wasn't interested in sports, and playing Metal Gear Solid for the first time. You may think I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. I played the intro to this game at my childhood friend's house. He had this PS1 sampler disc, which included Spyro, Medieval, NFL Extreme, and Metal Gear Solid. We fired it up, and every character was speaking Japanese. But something hit me. The dark, cold atmosphere, the movie quality cinematics, and with it, a soundtrack. Serious and mysterious in nature. Everything just seemed so cool. I remembered that game, and 2 years later, when I was 10 years old, I got my oldest brother's PlayStation and his copy of Metal Gear Solid. This game became an obsession, playing it all the time, starting it all over after the credits rolled. Its tactical militarism, awesome character designs, amazing voice acting by David Hayter, and all the rest captivated me as a kid. This was a game that I probably wasn't supposed to be playing at my age, and yet it seemed like this was made for me. Of course, the Metal Gear franchise becoming Solid in 3D was a huge deal. It was cinematic with amazing camera shots and movements, twists and turns narratively, amazing gameplay, and a cynical, philosophical look at violence and war. But there is something that fills the spaces of the entire game, and that is the music. This is why Metal Gear Solid is a musical masterpiece. The Metal Gear franchise starts in 1987, and from the very beginning you can tell that this was going to be a little different of a title musically. Hideo Kojima, a wannabe film director, actually came to love video games, but saw that games could be more than just entertainment. With a simple chord progression, the game starts on a tense beat. Metal Gear for the MSX already establishes the franchise on a foot that is somewhat uneasy. You can hear the music in the VR missions of Metal Gear Solid as well. Which was a fantastic callback, and one that may mean more than you can imagine in the terms of the overall narrative of the Metal Gear franchise. The goal is to stay in the shadows. While this game is still very early in regards to technology, you can see the mood that is being attempted to be set here, which revealed itself even further 3 years later. Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake would release in 1990 for the MSX. And this time, the music is even more cinematic, even from the very start with the theme of Solid Snake. Demonstrating a perfect example of mood is Inside the Vents. The feeling is tense, almost like the music to Terminator with a heartbeat. Metal Gear showed a greater concentration on the music of the game. How is the player to be feeling at that very moment? With many experiences being fleshed out more fully this time. By the way, if you are a fan of Metal Gear Solid and haven't played Metal Gear 2, please give it a chance. You may actually be surprised to see how many parallels exist between it and Solid. Releasing in 1998, Metal Gear Solid's music played a pivotal role in creating an immersive experience. Times were changing, and video games were undergoing a revolution. With the PlayStation, developers were exploring games as a cinematic experience. Kojima wanted Metal Gear Solid to feel more like a movie you could play, and the music was integral in achieving that. The soundtrack was designed to complement the game's stealth mechanics and hyper-emotional narrative, drawing inspiration from cinematic scores, blending orchestral elements with electronic beats, as well as extremely sharp percussion, and a literal metal pulse to evoke tension, mystery, and drama. To bring this vision to life, Kojima enlisted Konami Sound Team Japan, led by Tappy Iwase, and with contributions from Rika Muranaka. The team crafted a soundtrack that was cinematic, atmospheric, and emotionally resonant, setting a new gold standard for video game music. Not only is the main character named after Snake Plissken, but I can definitely see some John Carpenter influence in the score as well, creating a pulse with electronic sounds, almost like experimenting with different layers to tell what feels right for the moment. The music is split into 3 different groups. Stealth, with its tension and atmosphere, fights, with its action and adrenaline, and emotion, which is the bleeding heart and core of the game. We will be exploring these 3 thematics, but before we even play the game, there is an extremely important detail to discuss. A menu screen tells you a lot about the game you are about to play. It is your first step into the world that the team has crafted and that you are going to explore. With Mass Effect 1, the mood is almost inspirational, with a bright planetscape, whereas Mass Effect 2 is dark and ominous, even going so far as calling the track Suicide Mission. With Metal Gear Solid, you are firmly introduced into the world, with cyberpunk-like shapes and coding revealing Solid Snake's face, holding up his night vision goggles. And he isn't a static image. He actually blinks. This is a real, moving character, and this is going to be a tale to remember. A sonic overture prepares you, the player, for all the stealth tension and psychological depth that is going to be the game. The mood is cold, synthetic, metallic, creating a sense of isolation and mystery of the unknown. It's not just an intro into a game, it's an introduction into the world of shadows. This sets the tone for the entire musical identity of the game. It's almost grandiose as well, with the heavy percussion and synth vocal choir This is a game, a tale, a story, a place to remember. You aren't listening to the music anymore. You're just feeling it. The gameplay on the screen was reflected through the music as well, with dynamic music changes depending on the action of the player. Sneaking around, it'll play something mysterious and ominous. Get found out, heart-pacing, pulse-pounding action the next. Stealth tracks like Discovery use layered electronic sounds, reverb-heavy strings, and wind-like texture to create a tense and ominous atmosphere that is thick with mystery and danger. This perfectly aligns with the stealth gameplay with Discovery, literally being the theme of the intro portion of the game. Next is the Intruder trilogy, which are subtle variations of each other. Each are tailored to a different phase of the infiltration that you are in. All tracks are ambient stealth themes, and while they share the same tonal palette, dark, atmospheric, and minimal, these evolve in texture and intensity, which reflects the changing stakes and weirder circumstances of the mission. Intruder 1 is sparse, cold, minimalistic. Here we have a rhythmic motif that is going to be carried throughout many, if not most, of the soundtrack. An offbeat sound mimicking a heartbeat or the ticking of time, with low synth pads, distant metallic echoes, and a subtle percussive beat. This invokes isolation and an eerie calm. The strings create a sense of paranoia, the lone operative slipping into enemy territory. Intruder 2, the tension is rising. This track is slightly more layered and active than Intruder 1. This adds mid-range synth pulses and extremely sharper percussion hits. More enemies are on patrol, and more hazards have been revealed. This creates a sense of heightened alertness. And finally, Intruder 3. This is the most complex of the bunch. This is more aggressive in tone, lull vocal drones, sharper synth stabs, and ambient noises. Now the clock isn't subtle. The pulsing is a heavy bass slam, creating a claustrophobic and urgent mood. This is the sound of danger, not discovery, lurking around every corner. These don't just accompany the gameplay, but guide the player on the mood that the game is treading on, shifting as Snake moves deeper and deeper into enemy territory. One track that is particularly interesting is Mantis Hymm. This track is twofold, giving you the atmosphere just like the other tracks. But this one is distinct in that it is a track that is actually being played in universe by Mantis.
Strange, there's no guard.
What happened to the music?
So this is one of the other ways that Mantis is not only messing with the characters in the game, but you, yourself as a viewer, breaking the fourth wall, having the characters actually point out that the music has stopped. This is his mind control music. Eerie, creepy, and perfectly fitting for this telepath. Now that the main tone of stealth, espionage, mystery, cold, and pure darkness have been established, these moments of atmosphere would be nothing without a counter to them. Almost like a crash and then panic, the soundtrack dynamically opens up. The pace quickens, your heart pounds as you try to escape the onslaught of soldiers playing their deadly game of hide and seek. The tracks Encounter, Duel, and Escape all relate back to each other, but with subtle differences, keeping the main theme of action and this heart-pounding pace of watching a clock literally run out of time until you are safe again. With Encounter, the pace is quickened. Snake is racing against the clock to escape, to hide. This is the pulse of panic. You messed up. The track opens up with a driving beat. So relentless, it even feels like a heartbeat in overdrive. Using percussive loops that don't follow any groove, and is the complete opposite of tension found when sneaking around. The song, if not the whole soundtrack, is built from minor scales, meaning is always going to be a little off-putting. The whole song just feels unstable with no peaceful home to return to musically. These songs trigger a psychological response to the player, working to get them even further immersed into our main protagonist, Solid Snake. This also feeds into the theme of the game breaking the fourth wall, reaching out to the player, just like Psycho Mantis. Two other tracks follow the same lead as Encounter, with Duel and Escape, each having their own variation on the formula and setup that Encounter has. With the atmosphere set in place and the action ready to take over at any moment, there is something still missing. What is a story without a heart, without a soul? Metal Gear Solid shows many points in the story where the characters' emotions are tested, and the music is there to carry the emotional weight. The song Enclosure is played multiple times when an emotional moment is happening. War isn't pretty or something to be proud of. Naomi reveals to us her connection to Gray Fox and her backstory and motivations of joining Foxhound. During this codec call, it adds weight to her tragic story and her want for revenge. The most memorable time for most players is Sniper Wolf's death scene. Sharing her tragic backstory, being a child of war, and her bond to wolves, her life taken by our main protagonist, and you, the player. Are you showing mercy to someone whose life has been tragedy and pain? This moment humanizes this enemy who has not only hunted you, but has possibly killed one of your companions in Meryl. This moment, and others, while Enclosure plays, truly demonstrates the repercussions of violence, war, revenge, drawing so much emotional strife from the player. And finally, the song burned into all our collective memories. You didn't think I forgot, did you? Kept you waiting, huh? As the game is finished and you ride off into the sunset, with Meryl or Otacon, text appears on the screen, and as those words clear, you are treated to a completely black screen, with a soft voice breaking the silence. But not in English, not in Japanese, but in Gaelic. A language unfamiliar to most players, yet somehow deeply resonant. It's a song called "The Best Is Yet to Come," and it doesn't celebrate your victory, it mourns the cost. Composed by Rika Murunaka and performed by Irish vocalist Aofi Ni Farahai, the track was born from a challenge. Kojima wanted a closing theme in a language he didn't understand. Something alien, something timeless. Gaelic, with its ancient cadence and poetic melancholy, became the perfect vessel. Musically, the song is built in Dorian mode, a scale that evokes both sorrow and hope. There is no triumphant fanfare, no orchestral climax, just open fifths, modal harmonies, and a melody that drifts like snow across a battlefield long abandoned. The lyrics, though untranslated in-game, speak of longing and resilience, of enduring pain with the quiet belief that something better might still come. It's a lullaby for the wounded and a requiem for the lost. In a game obsessed with identity, legacy, and ethics of warfare, The Best Is Yet to Come functions as a philosophical coda. It doesn't answer the game's questions, it simply acknowledges them. And in doing so, it offers something rare in gaming: emotional closure. Because even in a world shaped by war and deception, Kojima reminds us the future isn't written. And maybe, just maybe, the best is yet to come. A philosophical dare to believe in something better, even after everything is burned down. It's amazing how this one song, performed in a language not many know, can carry the weight and thematics of the entire story. Even if you don't know the lyrics, it's an emotional closing point for the player. This song has been performed live, returns in Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriots, as well as being a sample by one of my favorite bands, Bring Me the Horizon, for the song Shadow Moses, released in 2013.
You mustn't allow yourself to be chained to fate, to be ruled by your genes. Humans can choose the type of life they want to live. The important thing is that you choose life, and then live.
The impact of the Metal Gear Solid soundtrack didn't end with the game. Its cinematic approach influenced not only later entries in the series, but also the gaming industry as a whole. Scores for games like Splinter Cell and Deus Ex owe a debt to what Metal Gear Solid achieved. The soundtrack proved that video game music could be as powerful and evocative as film scores. This game may also be the reason why I love cinema as much as I do, as well as video games that do take a cinematic approach. The music takes you through and to everywhere you need to be as a player. It's difficult to call something perfect, but this may be the most perfect soundtrack that I can think of, and one that's burned into my core memory forever. This soundtrack and game transformed video games forever. No longer just simple games and puzzles. Video games were here, and they were going to challenge film and TV in ways of storytelling that they absolutely could not compete in, by making you, the player, a part of the narrative, which is a theme that will carry through this entire franchise. You do feel a direct connection to the entire story. How many lives did you take? What was your reaction to the violence you committed? These are all questions that the game and story asks, all flowed through the music in the moments. The music is a direct psychological connection to the player that is inescapable. And the music for Metal Gear Solid is fantastic and a true musical masterpiece. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please be sure to subscribe. Also, be sure to smash the like button. It really does help out the channel, get pushed out to new people. Let me know your thoughts on Metal Gear Solid, the music, and everything else. What video game should we cover next? Let me know down in the comments below.